Hi everyone! Before we get into this audiobook, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and drop a like. It helps me out a lot as well as contributes a lot to the channel. Now, let's get into the story. I hope you enjoy. Anya's 16th birthday had been, in every other respect, utterly unremarkable. There had been cake, the usual pack gathering, and the uncomfortable expectation of her first shift, which, as it turned out, remained stubbornly absent. But that night, something profound and undeniably remarkable did happen. She dreamt of him. He wasn't a faceless silhouette or a fleeting impression. He was vivid, startlingly real, as if he stood before her in the waking world. His hair, a rich dark brown, fell in a way that suggested he often ran his hand through it, a slight wave catching the light. His eyes, though, were what truly captivated her. A warm, almost luminous amber, flecked with gold, holding a depth of kindness and a spark of mischievous humor. He had a laugh that resonated in her chest even after she woke, a low rumbling sound that promised comfort and joy. And his name, she knew his name as instinctively as she knew her own. Liam. Every night thereafter, Liam filled her dreams. Sometimes, they walked through sun-drenched meadows, his hand a solid warmth in hers, the scent of pine and something uniquely him, a mix of wood smoke and crisp autumn air filling her senses. Other times, they sat by a roaring fire, his arm around her, the quiet understanding between them a tangible presence. She knew the curve of his smile, the slight crinkle at the corners of his eyes when he truly laughed, the way he tilted his head when he was listening intently. He was her other half, her fated mate, a connection so profound it transcended the boundaries of sleep. But when she woke, the world remained stubbornly devoid of Liam. He wasn't a member of her pack, the Crescent Moon Pack, nor had she ever encountered anyone who matched his description in the neighboring territories. Her friends, full of excited whispers about their own burgeoning mate bonds, listened to her tales with a mixture of pity and bewilderment. Maybe it's just a dream, Anya, her best friend, Lena, had suggested gently one afternoon as they sat by the river, skipping stones. Sometimes our minds just create things. Anya shook her head, a familiar ache settling in her chest. It's not just a dream, Lena. It's him. I feel it, deep in my bones. It's too real, too consistent. I know him. Lena, with her pragmatic approach to life, had simply sighed, offering a sympathetic squeeze of Anya's arm. Lena had found her mate, a gruff but kind warrior named Riker, a few months prior, and the intensity of their connection was undeniable. Anya envied that tangibility, that ability to reach out and touch the person her soul recognized. The months bled into a year, then 2. Anya continued to dream of Liam, and her waking hours became a quiet agony of anticipation and frustration. She felt incomplete, a song without its harmony, a story missing its crucial turning point. Her parents, concerned by her withdrawn nature, consulted the pack's elder, a wise woman named Ilara, whose eyes held the wisdom of generations. Ilara listened patiently, her gnarled fingers tracing patterns on the polished surface of a smooth river stone. The moon goddess works in mysterious ways, child, Ilara had murmured, her voice raspy with age. Sometimes a mate bond is revealed early, a glimpse into the future. It is rare, and it is often for a purpose greater than mere companionship. Anya's heart had leapt with a fragile hope. A purpose? What kind of purpose? Ilara's gaze had seemed to pierce through Anya, searching, evaluating. That, my dear, is for the goddess to reveal in her own time. But know this: a mate connection, even in dreams, is never to be dismissed. It is a promise, a sacred vow from the universe. The conversation with Ilara offered a sliver of validation, a reason to hold on to her extraordinary dreams beyond simple wish fulfillment. It wasn't just her imagination, there was a reason. This possibility, that her dreams held a deeper meaning, fueled her, even as the gnawing uncertainty persisted. She began to spend more time in the pack's ancient library, a dusty, scent-filled room tucked away in a quiet corner of the main lodge. It was a place usually frequented only by the elders and the occasional scholar, filled with scrolls and leather-bound tomes that chronicled the pack's history, lore, and prophecies. She pored over texts, her fingers trailing across fading ink, searching for any mention of mate bonds that manifested before birth, of premonitions, of anything that could explain her unique situation. Most of the accounts spoke of the intense, immediate recognition upon meeting one's mate, the sudden surge of power, the undeniable pull. But then, after weeks of diligent searching, she found it. Tucked away in a crumbling scroll, its edges brittle with age, was a faint, almost illegible passage. And on occasion, when the veil between worlds thins and shadows gather on the horizon, the moon goddess, in her infinite foresight, grants a vision of a mate yet to be. This is a sacred trust, a premonition not of love's dawning, but of trials to come. For such a bond is forged not merely for joy, but for strength, to prepare one for a war unseen, a darkness yet to awaken. A war unseen, a darkness yet to awaken. Anya reread the passage, her blood turning to ice. Her dreams of Liam, so filled with warmth and affection, suddenly took on a new, ominous weight. Was Liam not just her future mate, but also a harbinger? Was she seeing him now, in her dreams, not just to prepare her heart, but to prepare her for something far more significant, far more dangerous? The revelation was both terrifying and strangely empowering. It explained the intensity, the persistence of her dreams. It gave them a purpose beyond her own yearning. She wasn't just waiting for love, she was waiting for a war. And Liam was somehow central to it. But how could she protect someone who didn't exist yet? How could she prepare for a war no one else saw coming? The weight of this knowledge settled heavily on her shoulders. She couldn't share this with just anyone. Even Lena, as close as they were, might dismiss it as a fanciful interpretation of an old text. The elders, perhaps, but even Ilara had only hinted at a purpose. This felt different, more urgent, more specific. She continued her routine, training with the pack warriors, honing her senses, pushing her physical limits. But now, every lunge, every sprint, every strike was imbued with a new resolve. She wasn't just training to be a strong wolf. She was training to be a protector, a guardian of a future she could only glimpse. One crisp autumn evening, as the moon hung like a silver disk in the sky, casting long, dancing shadows, Anya was on patrol with a small group of warriors, including Riker. The air was still, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Suddenly, a guttural snarl ripped through the silence, followed by the crashing of underbrush. "Rogues!" Riker barked, his body already shifting, his fur bristling. Anya felt the familiar shift, her bones rearranging, her senses sharpening. She emerged as a sleek, silver wolf, her fur shimmering under the moonlight. 3 rogues, their coats matted and their eyes wild with hunger, burst from the trees, their teeth bared. They were larger than average, their movements uncoordinated, fueled by a desperation that made them unpredictable. The fight was swift and brutal. Anya, usually a strategic fighter, found herself fueled by a primal fury she hadn't experienced before. She moved with a speed and ferocity that surprised even herself, her claws tearing, her teeth snapping. One rogue lunged at Riker, but Anya anticipated the move, intercepting it with a powerful shoulder charge that sent the rogue sprawling. She pinned it, her snarl a deep rumble in her chest, until Riker could deliver the incapacitating blow. When the rogues were subdued and bound, their leader, a mangy male with a scarred muzzle, lifted his head, his eyes fixing on Anya. His voice was a guttural rasp. "The silver wolf, the protector, you will stand in our way, but darkness will claim its own." Anya felt a chill despite the exertion. The silver wolf. It was a term from the ancient texts, a prophecy tied to a defender born under a specific alignment of stars, destined to protect the innocent. She had never given it much thought, dismissing it as old wives' tales. But now, coupled with the rogue's words and the prophecy of her mate, it felt chillingly real. Was this her purpose? The rogue's words echoed in her mind long after they had delivered the captured wolves back to the pack's holding cells. Darkness will claim its own. It resonated with the darkness yet to awaken from the scroll. The pieces, though fragmented, were beginning to form a terrifying mosaic. Her dreams of Liam continued, a source of both comfort and increasing urgency. The dreams began to subtly shift. While the warmth of their connection remained, there were fleeting glimpses of shadows, whispers of unseen threats. Once, she dreamt of him standing on a precipice, a dark storm gathering behind him, his expression one of grim determination. In another, she saw him fighting, a blur of motion against a backdrop of fire, his amber eyes blazing with an unfamiliar intensity. These fragmented visions fueled her apprehension, cementing the idea that her gentle dreams of love were inextricably linked to a burgeoning conflict. She knew she couldn't face this alone. The time for silent brooding was over. The pack needed to be prepared, even if they didn't yet understand the full scope of the threat. She sought out Ilara again, the old woman sitting by the hearth, her eyes closed in meditation. Anya recounted everything, her dreams of Liam, the ancient prophecy she'd unearthed, the rogue's cryptic words, and her own newfound unsettling strength in battle. Ilara listened, her eyes opening slowly, a flicker of something ancient and knowing in their depths. "The threads are weaving, child," Ilara said, her voice softer than usual. "The moon goddess has indeed marked you. The silver wolf, the protector, it is not merely a title, but a destiny. And your mate, the one born of spirit before flesh, is the heart of this unfolding prophecy." Anya's breath hitched. "But what do I do? How do I prepare for a war that isn't here yet? How do I protect someone who isn't even born?" Ilara reached out, her gnarled hand resting on Anya's arm. "You prepare yourself, Anya. You hone your skills, your mind, your spirit. You inspire your pack. You will need allies, for this darkness will not be easily overcome. And as for your matey, you protect his potential. You protect the world he is destined to be born into." The words were both a burden and a beacon. Anya understood then that her role wasn't to fight shadows directly, but to strengthen the foundation upon which the future, and Liam, would stand. It meant she had to be a leader, even before her time. She began by subtly influencing the pack's training. She suggested more rigorous drills, focusing on strategic defense and coordinated attacks. She pushed herself harder than anyone. her silver wolf a blur of controlled power, setting an example. She spent hours studying pack formations, ancient battle tactics, and even the subtle art of diplomacy, knowing that alliances would be crucial. Some of the older warriors grumbled, finding her newfound intensity unsettling. But others, particularly the younger generation, were inspired by her dedication and the quiet strength she exuded. Lena, ever loyal, became her staunchest supporter, observing Anya's transformation with a mixture of awe and concern. "You've changed, Anya," Lena said one evening after a particularly grueling training session. "You're different, stronger." Anya nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "I have to be. For all of us. For him." She glanced at the setting sun, a fiery orb dipping below the horizon. For Liam. The nature of the threat remained elusive. The captured rogues offered no clear answers, their minds clouded by hunger and a strange, almost fanatical devotion to something they called the Shadow Caller. They spoke in fragmented sentences of a power that promised them dominance, a new order where the weak would be purged. Anya gleaned little concrete information, but the sheer malevolence emanating from them was palpable. Then came the disappearances. First, it was a few lone travelers from distant packs, then a small group of hunters who ventured too far from their territory. The common thread was a chilling lack of struggle, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. The fear began to spread through the territories like wildfire. Ilara, after long hours of meditation, revealed a new, disturbing piece of the puzzle. The Shadow Caller, it is an ancient entity, a being of pure malevolence that feeds on fear and despair. It seeks to unravel the very fabric of our world, to plunge it into an eternal night, and it can manipulate the veil, drawing those with weakened spirits into its grasp. Anya's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a war of wolves, it was a battle against something far more insidious, something supernatural. And the thought that Liam, her future, could be born into such a world was unbearable. The training intensified. Anya focused not only on physical prowess, but also on mental fortitude. Ilara taught her ancient meditations to strengthen her mind against manipulation, to guard against the insidious whispers of fear. Anya, in turn, shared these techniques with her pack, emphasizing the importance of a strong spirit. One night, Anya's dream of Liam was particularly vivid and unsettling. He was older now, perhaps in his late teens, his amber eyes filled with a raw intensity she hadn't seen before. He was surrounded by a swirling darkness, a tangible entity that seemed to reach for him, its tendrils grasping. He fought it, his movements fluid and powerful, but the sheer oppressive weight of the darkness seemed to be draining him. Then he looked directly at her, his eyes piercing through the dreamscape, a silent plea. "Help me." Anya woke with a gasp, her heart pounding. The dream wasn't just a premonition of danger, it was a desperate call. Liam wasn't just her mate, he was a target, a vital piece in this cosmic struggle. She had to accelerate her plans. She convened a meeting of the pack elders and the Alpha, her father, a strong but traditional wolf who struggled with the unconventional nature of her insights. She laid out everything, from her dreams to the ancient prophecies, the rogue's words, the disappearances, and Ilara's revelations about the Shadow Caller. She spoke with a quiet conviction that brooked no argument, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Her father listened, his brow furrowed, his gaze unwavering. There was skepticism in the eyes of some of the elders, but Ilara's nods of affirmation and the grim reality of the disappearances lent weight to Anya's words. "So, You believe we are facing an entity that can steal souls? Her father finally asked, his voice low. Yes, father, Anya replied, meeting his gaze. And it is targeting those with strong spirits, those who could oppose it. Liam, my mate, he is one of them. He is meant to be a great leader, a beacon against this darkness. And I believe the Shadow Caller knows this, and seeks to extinguish his light before he is even born. A silence descended upon the room, heavy with the weight of her words. It was a terrifying prospect, a war against an unseen enemy that could steal the very essence of a being. But the evidence, however circumstantial, was mounting. Her father, after a long moment of contemplation, finally looked at Ilara. The old woman simply nodded, a confirmation of Anya's truth. We will prepare, her father finally announced, his voice ringing with a newfound resolve. We will send warnings to the neighboring packs. We will fortify our borders. And we will train as if our very existence depends on it. The pack rallied. The news, though terrifying, brought a sense of unity. Fear, when faced collectively, could be a powerful motivator. Warriors doubled their patrols. Sentinels sharpened their senses. And even the youngest pups were taught basic defense and evasion techniques. Anya, now fully embraced as a strategic leader, worked tirelessly, her mind a whirlwind of plans and contingencies. She sent envoys to the distant packs, carrying her message of warning. Most were receptive, having experienced their own mysterious disappearances. Alliances began to form, a network of packs united against a common, insidious threat. The dreams of Liam continued, but they were no longer just pleasant visions of a shared future. They were more like communiques, brief glimpses into his struggle, fragments of his growing power, and increasingly, whispers of the Shadow Caller's malevolent presence. She sought him learning, growing, even in the ethereal realm of her sleep, as if her dreams were a bridge, allowing her to bear witness to his journey and to send him strength across the void. One particularly vivid dream showed Liam, now a young boy, perhaps 5 or 6, playing in a sun-dappled forest. But then, the sunlight flickered, and shadows stretched long and menacingly from the trees. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper reached her, a chilling promise of oblivion. Liam, sensing something, looked around, his small face etched with a fleeting moment of fear before his amber eyes hardened with a determination that belied his age. Even as a child, he possessed an innate strength, a resilience that the Shadow Caller seemed to recognize and fear. Anya realized then that the Shadow Caller wasn't just waiting for Liam to be born. It was actively trying to influence his very spirit, to corrupt him before he even drew his first breath in the physical world. This made her mission even more urgent. She wasn't just protecting a future physical body, she was safeguarding a soul. Ilara taught Anya rituals to strengthen the spiritual defenses of the pack's territory, drawing on ancient power to weave a protective ward around their lands. Anya, with her unique connection to Liam and the unfolding prophecy, became the focal point of these rituals, channeling her intent and her love for her unborn mate into the protective energies. The air around their packlands began to feel different. A subtle hum of power, a sense of peace that held a hint of steel. The disappearances, though still occurring in other territories, seemed to bypass the Crescent Moon Pack. It was a small victory, a testament to their efforts, but Anya knew it was only a temporary reprieve. The Shadow Caller was persistent, and it would seek new ways to breach their defenses. One night, a desperate plea arrived from a distant mountain pack, their alpha reporting a devastating attack. Not by rogues, but by something unseen, something that left behind only a chilling void and a profound sense of despair in its wake. The details were vague, but the message was clear. The shadow caller was growing bolder, its power expanding. Anya knew what she had to do. She had to take the fight to the shadow caller, or at least find its source. She couldn't wait for it to come for them, not when Liam's very existence hung in the balance. She presented her plan to her father and the elders. She proposed leading a small, elite force to investigate the disappearances, to track the shadow caller's movements, and to find a way to sever its connection to the physical world. It was a dangerous proposition, fraught with unknowns. Her father hesitated, his gaze filled with concern. "It is a fool's errand, Anya. How can we fight what we cannot see, what we cannot touch?" "We fight it with spirit, Father," Anya responded, her voice unwavering. "With belief, with the strength of our bonds, and with the knowledge that if we do nothing, there will be no future for any of us, no future for Liam." Ilara stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Anya. "The silver wolf must lead. It is prophesied. Her connection to the one yet to be born is her shield and her sword. She senses what others cannot." With Ilara's endorsement, and the growing fear of the shadow caller's escalating attacks, her father reluctantly agreed. Anya assembled her team. Lena, fierce and loyal Riker, whose unwavering strength she trusted implicitly, and a handful of other skilled warriors who believed in her vision, even if they didn't fully comprehend its crack. Mystical underpinnings. Their journey was arduous. They traveled through dense forests, across treacherous mountains, following the faint, lingering scent of despair that marked the shadow caller's path. The landscape grew increasingly desolate, trees twisted into grotesque shapes, rivers stagnant and dark. The air itself felt heavy, oppressive, as if the joy had been leached from the world. Anya's dreams of Liam became her compass. He was still fighting, but he was also growing, learning to wield an inner light that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. In one dream, he held a shimmering orb of golden light in his hands, its warmth radiating outwards, dissipating the shadows around him. It was a vision of hope, a powerful reminder of what they were fighting for. They finally reached a place of profound desolation, a valley where nothing grew, where the very ground seemed to throb with a malevolent energy. At its center stood a monolithic structure, black and jagged, seemingly carved from nightmare itself. It hummed with a low, chilling vibration, and from its depths emanated the suffocating aura of the shadow caller. This was its lair. "This is it," Anya whispered, her hand instinctively going to the small, smooth river stone Ilara had given her, a conduit for the pack's combined spiritual energy. They approached cautiously, their forms shifted to wolves, their senses stretched to their limits. The air grew colder, and insidious whispers began to prick at their minds, twisting their deepest fears, sowing seeds of doubt. "You are weak. You will fail. He will never be born." Anya fought the whispers, channeling the love she felt for Liam, the image of his bright amber eyes burning in her mind. "Focus," she growled to her team, her voice a low rumble. "Reject the fear. Remember why we are here." They breached the entrance, a gaping maw of darkness. Inside, the structure was a labyrinth of twisted corridors and echoing chambers. The whispers intensified, clawing at their sanity. And then they saw them shimmering, ethereal forms, trapped within crystalline prisons embedded in the walls. These were the missing, their spirits tethered, their life force slowly draining, feeding the shadow caller. Lena gasped, recognizing a distant relative among the trapped spirits. The sight ignited a fierce determination within the team. They moved deeper, guided by the overwhelming presence of the shadow caller. Finally, they reached a central chamber, vast and cavernous. In its heart, suspended in a swirling vortex of shadow, was the shadow caller itself. It wasn't a physical being in the traditional sense, but a coalesced mass of pure darkness, shifting and pulsating, its form both amorphous and terrifyingly defined by the despair it embodied. It had no eyes, no mouth, yet Anya felt its gaze, its malevolent intent. And then she saw him, not physically, but as a faint, shimmering outline within the vortex, a nascent spark of light struggling against the oppressive darkness. Liam. He was there, his spirit fighting, his undeveloped essence on the precipice of being consumed. A roar tore from Anya's throat, a sound born of fury and love. "You will not have him," she snarled, shifting back to her human form, her body crackling with a raw power she hadn't known she possessed. Her silver hair seemed to shimmer, her eyes blazing with an inner light. The shadow caller turned its attention fully to her, its whispers now a deafening roar in her mind. The silver wolf of foolish defiance. "Your mate is mine. He will be the vessel for eternal night." Anya held the river stone aloft, its surface glowing with a soft, warm light. "You underestimate the power of love, of hope, of connection." She began to channel her energy, not just her own, but the collective strength of her pack, of the alliances she had forged, of the spiritual defenses Ilara had taught her. She poured all of it into the stone, a conduit of pure, unadulterated light. Lena and Riker, understanding her intent, stood beside her, their own wolf forms radiating fierce loyalty and strength, their minds focused, pushing back against the shadow caller's mental assault. The other warriors formed a protective circle around them, their growls a defiant chorus. The light from the stone intensified, a blinding beacon against the pervasive darkness. It reached out, not as a destructive force, but as a purifying one, seeking to unravel the shadow caller's malevolent energy. The vortex around Liam flickered, the faint outline of his spirit growing momentarily brighter. The shadow caller shrieked, a sound that ripped through their very souls, a noise of pure agony and rage. It unleashed tendrils of darkness, seeking to lash out, to snuff out Anya's light. But Anya stood firm, an unyielding pillar of resolve, her eyes fixed on the shimmering form of Liam. "He is the dawn," Anya cried, her voice echoing through the chamber, infused with a power that transcended her physical form. "He is the hope. You cannot claim what is destined for light." The battle was not one of claws and teeth, but of will and spirit. Anya pushed, her entire being focused on empowering the light, on pushing back the encroaching darkness. She felt the strain, the immense drain on her energy, but the image of Liam's amber eyes, so full of warmth and promise, kept her from faltering. Slowly, agonizingly, the vortex around Liam began to dissipate. The oppressive gloom in the chamber receded, pushed back by the radiating light from Anya and the combined strength of her pack. The crystalline prisons holding the trapped spirits began to crack, the faint forms within stirring, gaining a glimmer of their former essence. With a final, desperate shriek, the shadow caller began to unravel. Its form twisted and writhed, its essence scattering like smoke in a fierce wind. It was not destroyed. Anya knew such pure malevolence could not be entirely eradicated. But it was fractured, banished, its connection to the physical realm severed, at least for a time. Silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the quiet gasps of the liberated spirits as they slowly began to rematerialize, their eyes blinking in confusion, then dawning realization. The oppressiveness lifted, replaced by a sense of profound, exhausted peace. Anya collapsed to her knees, the river stone falling from her numb fingers. Lena was instantly by her side, helping her up, her own face streaked with sweat and grime, but her eyes shining with relief. "We did it," Lena whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Anya looked at the fading remnants of the shadow collar, then at the slowly reawakening spirits. For now, she knew the fight wasn't truly over, that vigilance would always be required. But they had won a crucial battle. They had secured a future. They led the dazed, rematerializing individuals back to the surface, their packs waiting with anxious anticipation. The reunion was emotional, a testament to the power of hope and the strength of their combined efforts. Back at the Crescent Moon Pack, celebrations erupted. But amidst the joy and relief, Anya felt a profound weariness, a sense of quiet triumph mixed with the lingering echoes of the spiritual battle. She had fulfilled her purpose, or at least a significant part of it. She had protected the potential of her mate, secure his right to be born into a world not consumed by darkness. That night, for the first time in years, Anya dreamt of Liam, and it was different. He wasn't fighting or struggling against shadows. He was a baby, swaddled in a soft blanket, his small face serene, his eyes closed in peaceful sleep. And then his eyes fluttered open, revealing the familiar, luminous amber, filled with an innocent curiosity. He smiled, a tiny, gummy smile, and a profound sense of peace washed over Anya, a feeling of completion that resonated deep within her soul. She woke with tears streaming down her face, not of sadness, but of overwhelming joy, and a quiet certainty. The dream was no longer a premonition of danger, but a promise of imminent arrival. Liam was coming. He was safe. Months turned into a year. The world began to heal, the fears slowly receding. The alliances forged during the crisis remained strong, a testament to the shared struggle. The Crescent Moon Pack, once a quiet, unassuming group, had become a beacon of strength and resilience. And then, one crisp autumn morning, a message arrived from a distant allied pack, a small, independent group known for their peaceful nature and strong connection to the earth. The message was simple, yet it sent a tremor of anticipation through Anya. A child had been born, a boy with unusual luminous amber eyes. Anya's heart leapt. She knew, with an undeniable certainty, that it was him. Liam. He was here. He was real. She traveled to the distant pack with her father and a small escort, the journey filled with a breathless anticipation she had never known. When she finally saw him, lying in his mother's arms, so tiny and vulnerable, yet radiating a familiar warmth, she felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. He was so small, so utterly innocent. His amber eyes, just as she remembered them from her dreams, were open, gazing up at the world with a profound curiosity. When his gaze met hers, a faint spark, a flicker of recognition passed between them. He cooed, reaching out a tiny hand. Anya knelt by the crib, tears blurring her vision. She reached out, her finger gently touching his miniature palm. His tiny fingers curled around hers, a fragile yet undeniable connection. The moon goddess had given her a mate before he was born, not just to prepare her for a war, but to prepare her heart for a love that spanned time and realms. The war was far from over, the darkness always lurking, but a future had been secured, and the promise of a love she couldn't yet touch but could now see was finally within reach. She would wait. She would protect. And she would nurture the future she had fought so hard to safeguard. Until the day her mate, Liam, was old enough to stand by her side, a partner in a love story woven into the very fabric of prophecy and destiny. Her journey had only just begun. Anya devoted herself to the pack, but a part of her always lingered with the distant pack, drawn by the invisible thread connecting her to Liam. She visited him when she could, watching him grow from an infant into a curious toddler, his amber eyes already brimming with an intelligence beyond his years. Each visit was a quiet confirmation, a reinforcement of her purpose. She saw in his innocent gaze the future she had fought for, the hope for their world. The war with the Shadow Caller wasn't a constant, overt battle, but a persistent, underlined threat, and Anya understood that their vigilance could never truly cease. Years passed. Liam grew into a vibrant, energetic child, his spirit unburdened by the knowledge of the battles fought on his behalf. Anya kept her connection to him a closely guarded secret, known only to her parents, Ilara, and her inner circle of trusted warriors. She didn't want to burden him, or jeopardize his safety by revealing his destiny too soon. Her dreams of him shifted again, becoming less about his struggle and more about his everyday life. Snippets of his laughter, his playful antics, moments of quiet contemplation. It was a comforting normalcy, a stark contrast to the urgency of her earlier visions. Meanwhile, Anya continued to strengthen the alliances between the packs. The threat of the Shadow Caller, though subdued, had left its mark, and the shared experience had fostered a deeper sense of community among the werewolf territories. She organized joint training exercises, shared strategies for spiritual defense, and fostered open communication lines, building a formidable network of interconnected packs. Her leadership, born of necessity and shaped by prophecy, had transformed her into a respected figure throughout their world. One day, when Liam was 7 years old, a subtle shift occurred in Anya's dreams. She saw him not as a child, but as a young man, perhaps 16 or 17, the age she had been when her dreams first began. He was standing on a familiar precipice, the same one from her earlier ominous dream, but this time, the sky behind him was not dark. Instead, it was filled with the soft, ethereal glow of the moon goddess, and Liam's face, while serious, held no fear. He was looking out at a vast, vibrant landscape, his gaze filled with a quiet strength and a deep understanding. He wasn't just existing, he was leading. The dream was a sign. The next phase was approaching. It was around this time, but the whispers began again, not from the Shadow Caller directly, but from a growing faction of wolves within some of the more isolated packs. They were wolves who had been touched by the Shadow Caller's influence in the past, their spirits subtly twisted, their fear festering into resentment. They spoke of the Silver Wolf's tyranny, of unnecessary alliances, of the perceived loss of individual pack autonomy. They argued that the moon goddess would protect them, and that human-like strategies and constant vigilance were a sign of weakness, an affront to their primal nature. These dissenting voices, though few at first, grew louder, fueled by an insidious undercurrent of distrust. Anya recognized the Shadow Caller's subtle hand at work. It couldn't directly attack, but it could sow discord, undermine unity, and weaken the collective spirit that had defeated it before. This new threat was not a direct physical confrontation, but a war of ideology, a battle for the very soul of their world. She called for a council of the allied alphas, explaining her fears. The Shadow Caller doesn't need to manifest physically to destroy us, she stated, her voice calm but firm. It can break us from within, through division and fear. We must stand united, not just against an external foe, but against the shadows of our own minds. The council was divided. Some recognized the danger immediately, having witnessed the devastating effects of the Shadow Caller's influence firsthand. Others, however, were swayed by the dissenting voices, by the allure of a simpler, less vigilant existence. Anya understood that words alone would not be enough. They needed a demonstration, a powerful reminder of the unity they had fought for. She proposed a grand gathering, a moon festival, inviting all packs, allied or otherwise, to come together in a celebration of their shared heritage and strength. It would be a show of unity, a testament to the bonds that had saved them. The preparation for the moon festival was an enormous undertaking. Anya oversaw every detail, from the logistics of hosting hundreds of wolves from diverse territories to the intricate ceremonies designed to reaffirm their connection to the moon goddess and to each other. She ensured that representatives from all packs, including those with dissenting views, were invited and made to feel welcome. Liam, now 8 years old, attended the festival with his parents. Anya watched him from afar, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and quiet anticipation. He was a bright, observant child, taking in the spectacle with wide-eyed wonder. He moved through the crowd with an easy confidence, a natural warmth that drew others to him. During the festival's main ceremony, under the full, luminous moon, Anya stood before the assembled packs. She recounted the history of their alliance, the darkness they had faced, and the unity that had seen them through. She spoke of the importance of trust, of looking beyond differences, of the shared spirit that bound them all. She spoke of hope, of the future they were building, a future where every child could grow up safe and free. As she spoke, she instinctively glanced towards Liam. He was listening intently, his amber eyes fixed on her, a faint flicker of recognition in their depths, as if on some subconscious level, he understood the weight of her words, the deeper meaning behind them. A connection, a subtle thrum, passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that transcended time. Just as she finished speaking, a ripple of unease spread through the crowd. A low, mocking laugh echoed through the clearing, followed by a voice, cold and laced with disdain. "Such pretty words, Silver Wolf, but unity is an illusion. Fear is the only truth." From the shadows, a group of wolves emerged, their fur matted, their eyes cold and devoid of light. These were the leaders of the dissenting faction, their minds clearly twisted by the Shadow Caller's lingering influence. They carried no weapons, but their presence exuded a malevolent energy, a chilling echo of the entity Anya had faced years ago. "You speak of unity," one of them sneered, "but you preach fear. You demand obedience, but you hide truths." His gaze fell on Liam, who stood close to his parents, his small body tensing. "Perhaps," the rogue continued, his voice dripping with venom, "the real threat is the one you champion, the one you've kept hidden, the one who is destined to bring ruin." A gasp went through the crowd. Anya felt a jolt of alarm. They knew about Liam, or at least, they suspected his significance. The Shadow Caller's whispers had found fertile ground, twisting truth into a weapon. Anya stepped forward, her silver wolf shimmering into existence, her teeth bared in a silent snarl. "You speak of ruin, but you sow discord. You are puppets, tools of a darkness that seeks to consume us all." The dissenting wolves shifted into their own, less defined forms, their movements jerky and unnatural. This wasn't a typical rogue attack. This was a spiritual assault, designed to break their morale, to shatter their belief in their leader and in each other. The air grew heavy with a palpable sense of unease. Whispers began to spread through the crowd, doubts creeping in. Is she telling the truth? What if she's hiding something? Anya knew she couldn't fight this with force alone. She had to counter the fear, the doubt, with something stronger. With truth, and with the undeniable power of their shared spirit. She took a deep breath, focusing on the moon above, on the collective energy of her allies. Then, she did something she had never done before, something she had only practiced in her deepest meditations. She extended her senses, not just to her immediate surroundings, but to the entire assembly, reaching out to touch the spirits of every wolf present. She projected her dreams, the years of visions, the struggle against the shadow caller, the love she held for Liam, the promise of his future. It wasn't a spoken narrative, but a visceral experience, a flood of emotions and images directly into the minds of the wolves around her. They saw Liam as she had first seen him, a beacon of hope. They felt the terror of the shadow caller, the insidious grip of despair. They witnessed Anya's unwavering resolve, her sacrifices, her relentless fight to protect them all. They felt the sheer, undeniable love that fueled her every action. The rogue wolves shrieked, recoiling from the sudden influx of pure, undeniable truth. Their forms flickered, their distorted minds unable to withstand the overwhelming force of Anya's raw, unfiltered memories and emotions. They clawed at their own heads, the malevolent energy that had corrupted them momentarily overwhelmed by the light. Among the crowd, gasps turned to murmurs of understanding, then to tears, then to a collective roar of recognition and solidarity. The doubts, the fears, the resentment melted away, replaced by an unbreakable unity. They had seen her truth, felt her truth, and it resonated with their own innate sense of justice and hope. Liam, standing amidst his parents, had also been touched by Anya's shared vision. His small face was pale, his eyes wide, filled with an understanding that was both profound and heartbreaking. He saw the years of Anya's lonely burden, the sacrifices she had made. He saw the love that had sustained her, a love that was inherently linked to him. As the rogue wolves stumbled back, their influence shattered, a new voice rang out, clear and strong, cutting through the lingering tension. "We stand with the silver wolf." It was Lena, her wolf form radiating power, her voice echoing with conviction. Riker and the other allied alphas quickly joined in, their roars of support shaking the very ground. The entire assembly, now united, surged forward, not in anger, but in resolute defiance. The dissenting wolves, their power broken, whimpered, their malicious energy dissipating into the night. They were taken into custody, their minds still clouded, but their ability to sow discord utterly removed. The Moon Festival, which had been on the brink of chaos, transformed into an even more powerful celebration of unity and resilience. The bonds between the packs were now stronger than ever, forged not just in shared defense, but in shared understanding. Later that night, as the fires burned low and the celebrations continued, Anya found herself alone for a moment, looking up at the majestic moon. A small voice broke her reverie. "Anya?" She turned to see Liam, standing hesitantly a few feet away, his parents watching from a respectful distance. He was no longer the innocent child, but a boy whose eyes held the echo of an ancient truth. Anya knelt, opening her arms. Liam hesitated for a moment, then ran into her embrace, burying his face in her shoulder. She held him tightly, the warmth of his small body a tangible comfort against the years of lonely anticipation. You saw," Anya whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Liam pulled back, his amber eyes, so familiar from her dreams, now filled with a deep understanding that belied his age. "I saw everything," he murmured, his voice soft but firm. You saved me. You saved all of us." He looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "You're my protector." Anya's heart swelled. He knew. He understood. The secret she had carried for so long, the burden of a future she had fought for, was now shared. "Yes," Anya said, her voice catching. "And one day, you will lead us." Liam nodded, a newfound resolve in his young face. "I will. I promise." He looked up at the moon, then back at Anya, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer around him, a hint of the power that lay dormant within him. "I'm ready." The words were not arrogant, but a quiet statement of fact. He was ready, not to fight, not yet, but to begin his journey, to embrace the destiny that had intertwined with Anya's since before his birth. Anya smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached her eyes. The waiting was not over, but it had shifted. It was no longer a solitary vigil, but a shared journey. She had dreamed of her mate for years, a love she couldn't touch. Now, he was here, a tangible presence, and the path to their shared future, though still challenging, was finally illuminated by the quiet, unwavering promise of his amber eyes. She had protected his birthright, nurtured his potential, and now she would walk beside him as he grew into the leader he was destined to be. A love born of dreams, forged in war, and destined to reshape their world. The years that followed were a delicate balance of peace and preparation. Anya, now in her late 20s, was no longer just the silver wolf of prophecy. She was the respected alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack, leading with a wisdom that far surpassed her years. Her bond with Liam, though still unspoken in its romantic sense, deepened with every passing season. He continued to visit her pack, his visits becoming more frequent and extended as he entered his teenage years. Liam, at 14, was a striking young man. His dark hair was often artlessly disheveled, and his amber eyes, those eyes that had haunted Anya's dreams for so long, held a depth of understanding and a quiet intensity that mirrored her own. He possessed an innate curiosity and a keen intellect, devouring every book in the pack's library and absorbing every lesson Ilara offered about their history and the subtle energies of the world. He was a natural leader among his peers, his calm demeanor and thoughtful insights drawing others to him. Anya observed him, a quiet pride swelling in her chest. She saw the nascent power within him, the burgeoning strength that would one day rival her own. She also saw the shadow of their shared destiny, a knowledge that sometimes weighed on her. The shadow collar remained dormant, a chilling silence that was almost more unnerving than its direct attacks. Anya knew it was biding its time, and that its return was inevitable. One crisp autumn afternoon, Anya found Liam by the river, skipping stones, his brow furrowed in thought. He had grown taller, his frame beginning to fill out with the lean muscle of a young werewolf. "A penny for your thoughts?" Anya asked, approaching him quietly. Liam startled, then offered her a small, almost shy smile. "Just a thinking about things, Alpha." Anya sat beside him, the scent of damp earth and crisp leaves filling the air. "Things?" He tossed another stone, watching it skim across the water. "The stories Ilara tells. About the shadow collar. About everything." He turned to her, his amber eyes serious. "You know more, don't you? You know why I'm important." Anya's breath hitched. She had always known this conversation would come, but the directness of his question still surprised her. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "Yes, Liam, I do." She began to speak, slowly, carefully, recounting the prophecy, her dreams, the years of silent struggle, the battle in the Shadow Caller's lair, and the inherent connection that had bound them since before his birth. She saw the emotions flicker across his face: shock, disbelief, then a growing understanding, and finally, a quiet acceptance that carried a profound weight. "So you saw me in your dreams," he murmured, his voice hushed. "And you fought for me before I was even born." "I fought for us," Anya corrected softly, her gaze unwavering. "For the future. For the world I wanted you to be born into." He was silent for a long moment, absorbing the monumental truth. Then, he looked at her, his amber eyes holding a depth that seemed to encompass centuries. "Thank you, Anya," he said, his voice husky with emotion. "Thank you for not giving up on me." In that moment, the last fragile barrier between them seemed to dissolve. It wasn't just a revelation of prophecy, it was the forging of a deeper, more conscious connection. The mate bond, which had always been a whisper in her soul, resonated with a new, undeniable strength. The revelation to Liam marked a significant turning point. He no longer felt like a child protected by an unseen force, but a burgeoning participant in a grand design. He approached his training with a renewed intensity, his innate abilities blossoming under Anya's direct guidance. He was a quick study, his senses remarkably sharp, his control over his wolf form almost instinctive. Anya began to teach him advanced combat techniques, spiritual shielding exercises, and the subtle art of leadership, preparing him for the role he would one day inhabit. Their bond, previously mystical and subconscious, began to manifest in tangible ways. They could sense each other's moods, a faint emotional resonance that transcended distance. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, Anya would dream not just of Liam, but with him, their minds intertwining in shared landscapes, their conversations flowing effortlessly even in sleep. These shared dreams were a sanctuary, a glimpse into the future they were building together. The fragile peace was shattered when the Shadow Caller returned, not as a direct assault, but through a series of escalating incidents. Crops withered overnight in distant territories, rivers turned brackish, and animals fell ill with a wasting sickness that defied explanation. The despair spread slowly, insidiously, a pervasive malaise that drained hope and vitality from the affected lands. The Shadow Caller was no longer just stealing souls, it was poisoning the very essence of life, twisting the natural world to its malevolent will. Anya knew this was a new tactic, a more subtle and widespread method of weakening the world for its ultimate consumption. It was a slow, agonizing siege. She called for another council of the allied alphas, the urgency in her voice unmistakable. "It is feeding on the land itself," Anya explained, pointing to a map where the affected areas were slowly expanding like a creeping stain. "It seeks to create a world barren of life, a canvas for its eternal night. We cannot fight this with brute force alone. We must heal the land, replenish the spirit." Ilara, now frail but still sharp-minded, confirmed Anya's fears. The Shadow Caller seeks to starve the world of light. It drains the life force, leaving only desolation. We must counter its blight with abundance, its despair with hope, its decay with renewal. The solution was daunting. It required a massive, coordinated effort from all the allied packs. They needed to perform ancient rituals of blessing and renewal across the blighted lands, drawing on the collective life force of their wolves, their connection to the earth, and the power of the moon goddess. It was a perilous undertaking, as such powerful rituals left the participants vulnerable to spiritual attack. Liam, now 15, insisted on being part of the leading group for these rituals. His amber eyes blazed with a fierce determination. "I'm not a child anymore, Anya," he stated, his voice firm. "I am part of this. My destiny is intertwined with this world and with you. I will not stand by and watch." Anya looked at him, seeing not just the boy she had protected, but the strong, resolute young man he was becoming. The leader she had dreamed of. "Then you will stand with me," she said, her voice filled with quiet pride. The journey to the blighted lands was grim. The air grew heavy with a palpable sadness, the trees skeletal, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards a perpetually gray sky. Anya, Liam, and a chosen group of powerful alphas and spiritual leaders from the allied packs began their work. The rituals were arduous. They involved long hours of meditation, chanting, and channeling their energy into the land, coaxing life back into the dying earth. Anya, as the silver wolf and the one with the deepest connection to the spiritual realm, felt the full weight of the Shadow Caller's opposing force. It was a constant, insidious drain on her energy, a chorus of whispers trying to sow doubt and despair in her mind. But this time, she wasn't alone in her struggle. Liam, standing beside her, was a pillar of quiet strength. He channeled his own burgeoning power, a pure golden light that radiated from him, pushing back against the encroaching despair. He was a natural conduit, his spirit resonating with the land, his presence a living embodiment of the hope they sought to restore. During one particularly intense ritual, as Anya felt the insidious tendrils of the Shadow Caller trying to penetrate her mind, Liam reached out, his hand instinctively finding hers. A powerful surge of energy, warm and pure, flowed between them, knitting their spirits together. The whispers of the Shadow Caller faltered, unable to break through their combined strength. It was a moment of profound connection, a silent affirmation of their fated bond, their hands clasped not just as alpha and future leader, but as mates, a single, indomitable force against the darkness. Together, they pushed back the blight. The land slowly began to respond. Faint green shoots emerged from the withered earth. The air grew lighter, and the pervasive sadness began to recede. It was a slow, painstaking process, requiring weeks of sustained effort, moving from one blighted area to another. Their final ritual took them to the heart of the most affected region, a once vibrant forest now reduced to a twisted, decaying mockery of its former self. Here, the Shadow Caller's influence was strongest, its essence thick and suffocating. As they began the ritual, the air crackled with malevolent energy, and spectral forms, born of the land's despair, coalesced around them, hissing threats and trying to break their concentration. Liam, standing directly opposite Anya in their ritual circle, felt a surge of cold dread, but also a fierce protectiveness. He saw the strain on Anya's face, the effort it took for her to maintain her spiritual shield against the onslaught. He poured every ounce of his burgeoning power into the ritual, his golden light flaring, creating a protective barrier around the circle. The Shadow Caller, sensing the culmination of their efforts, launched a full-scale spiritual attack, a cacophony of terrifying whispers, images of their deepest fears, and the cold promise of eternal void. Anya staggered, her vision blurring, the overwhelming despair threatening to consume her. Then, Liam's voice, clear and strong, cut through the mental static. "Anya, focus on me. Focus on us." Anya forced herself to look at him, her eyes meeting his amber gaze across the ritual circle. In his eyes, she saw their shared dreams, the future they had fought for, the love that transcended everything. His spirit reached out, an anchor in the swirling chaos. And then it happened. The mate bond, previously an undercurrent, surged forward, a tidal wave of pure, undeniable connection. It was more than just spiritual alignment, it was a complete merging of their essences, a recognition of soul by soul. The energy that flowed between them was incandescent, not just their individual powers, but the amplified, exponentially stronger force of two fated souls united. A blinding white light erupted from their clasped hands, expanding rapidly, encompassing the entire blighted forest. The spectral forms shrieked, dissolving into nothingness. The oppressive gloom shattered, broken into 1,000 shimmering fragments. The twisted trees straightened, their leaves unfurling in vibrant green, their bark smoothing, radiating life. The air filled with the scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers, the sound of birdsong returning after years of silence. The shadow caller, its essence recoiling from the overwhelming purity of their combined power, let out a final pained shriek that echoed through the rejuvenated forest, then retreated, its presence fractured and diminished. It was a deeper banishment than before, a wound inflicted directly on its malevolent core. When the light faded, Anya and Liam stood breathless, their hands still clasped, their eyes locked. The world around them was vibrant, alive, teeming with renewed energy. The spiritual exhaustion was immense, but it was overshadowed by a profound sense of triumph and an even more profound sense of connection. Liam's amber eyes, now reflecting the golden light of the revitalized forest, held a clear, undeniable adoration. "Anya," he whispered, his voice hoarse, filled with a revelation that went beyond words. Anya, her own eyes shimmering with unshed tears, squeezed his hand. "Liam." They returned to the Crescent Moon Pack as heroes, their bond now fully awakened and palpable to everyone around them. The pack, and indeed all the allied packs, felt the tangible shift, the powerful connection radiating from their alpha and the young man who stood beside her. The next Moon Festival, a year later, was a true celebration of renewal and hope. Liam, now 16, stood beside Anya as her declared mate, their intertwined destinies now openly acknowledged by all. The years of dreaming, of waiting, of fighting a future that hadn't yet been born, had culminated in this moment. As the moon rose, casting its silver glow over the assembled packs, Anya looked at Liam. He was no longer just the boy from her dreams. He was a living, breathing reality. His hand a solid, comforting presence in hers. His amber eyes, those eyes that had called to her across time and space, met hers, filled with a love that felt as ancient and as boundless as the moon itself. The war with the Shadow Caller was not truly over. Such darkness could never be fully extinguished. But they had won a profound victory. They had secured their world, not just for the present, but for generations to come. And they had done it together, a love born of prophecy, nurtured in dreams, and forged in the crucible of battle, finally made whole. Their story was no longer about waiting for a love that couldn't be touched, but about building a future, hand in hand, with a love that had defied time, protected destiny, and brought light back to a shadowed world. Anya and Liam, the Silver Wolf, and the leader born of spirit before flesh, stood ready, facing the dawn of a new era, together. The years following the full awakening of Anya and Liam's mate bond were marked by a profound sense of purpose and a blossoming love that defied the extraordinary circumstances of its origin. Liam, having embraced his destiny, completed his training under Anya's tutelage. He matured into a formidable leader, his quiet strength and unwavering resolve a perfect complement to Anya's fiery determination. Their bond was a constant source of power, allowing them to anticipate each other's thoughts and movements in battle, and offering solace in moments of quiet reflection. The whispers returned the shadow caller, though severely wounded, was not entirely vanquished. Its malevolence, like a persistent weed, began to sprout in new, insidious forms. The initial manifestations were subtle, unsettling dreams plaguing the minds of young wolves, a creeping apathy that dulled the joy in some remote villages, and a subtle discord that whispered doubts into the ears of pack elders. These were not overt attacks but psychological warfare, designed to erode their unity from within. Anya and Liam, sensitive to these shifts through their deep connection, felt the subtle tremors of the returning darkness. They knew the Shadow Caller had learned from its previous defeats. It would no longer launch direct, easily identifiable assaults. Instead, it sought to dismantle the very foundations of their society, turning their strengths into weaknesses. Liam, now 18, and fully shifted into his powerful wolf form, with fur the color of rich earth and those distinctive amber eyes, took on a more prominent role in addressing these new threats. He traveled extensively to the allied packs, his calm demeanor and thoughtful diplomacy proving invaluable in quelling nascent fears and strengthening alliances. He spoke of resilience, of the importance of inner peace, and of the need to protect their collective spirit against the invisible corrosion of despair. Anya, meanwhile, focused on bolstering the spiritual defenses of their own pack and developing new training regimens that emphasized mental fortitude and emotional resilience. Ilara, though older and more frail, remained a wellspring of ancient wisdom, guiding them in forgotten rituals designed to purify negative energies and fortify the mind against subtle influence. The blight of despair, the Shadow Caller's next move, was more overt, yet still insidious. A strange plague began to spread among the human towns bordering werewolf territories. It wasn't a physical illness, but a profound, debilitating despair. People lost the will to live, their eyes vacant, their bodies withering away. The emotional void created by this widespread hopelessness was a potent feast for the Shadow Caller, allowing it to gradually expand its influence. The packs faced a moral dilemma. Their traditions dictated minimal interference with human affairs, but this was no ordinary human crisis. This was a direct consequence of the Shadow Caller's malevolence, and the spreading despair threatened to engulf their world as well. "We cannot stand by," Anya declared at a council meeting, her voice resonating with conviction. "Their despair feeds the Shadow Caller. If we let it consume them, it will eventually consume us." Liam stepped forward, his presence radiating a quiet authority. "The Moon Goddess teaches us compassion, Alpha. We are guardians of life itself, not just our own kind. We must intervene, not with force, but with healing." Their plan was audacious. They would send small, specialized teams of healers and emotionally resilient wolves into the affected human towns, disguised in their human forms. Their mission was not to reveal their true nature, but to subtly introduce hope, to rekindle the flame of life within the afflicted. It required immense self-control and a deep understanding of human psychology, skills not typically honed by werewolf warriors. A battle for the soul, Anya led one of the first teams, her heart heavy with the weight of the suffering she encountered. The human towns were ghost towns, the silence broken only by the mournful wind and the occasional, listless sigh. She found herself walking through homes where families sat together, utterly motionless, their eyes devoid of light. It was a stark reminder of the Shadow Caller's chilling power. Liam, leading another team, found himself in a similar, harrowing situation. He encountered a young human girl, no older than 10, sitting alone amidst the silent desolation of her home, clutching a faded toy. Her eyes were empty, reflecting nothing. A profound sadness, born of the shadow caller's touch, emanated from her. He knelt before her, his amber eyes soft with compassion. Instead of trying to force hope upon her, he simply sat with her, emanating a quiet warmth, a sense of gentle presence. He spoke to her softly, not about hope, but about simple things: the warmth of the sun, the sound of a bird's song, the taste of fresh water. He projected soothing images from his own mind: a field of wildflowers, a clear mountain stream, the laughter of children. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a flicker of awareness returned to the girl's eyes. A faint tremor ran through her small body. She looked at Liam, her gaze still distant, but no longer empty. He continued to speak, his voice a steadying balm, gently drawing her out of the abyss. Meanwhile, Anya's team faced their own challenges. They used subtle methods, leaving small, vibrant wildflowers on doorsteps, humming forgotten lullabies near open windows, and performing silent, ancient blessings in the town squares, channeling their positive caxol energies into the desolate atmosphere. It was a slow, exhausting process, battling an invisible enemy that fed on the very essence of human spirit. One evening, after a particularly draining day, Anya found herself staring at the blank face of an elderly human woman, lost in despair. The shadow caller's whispers intensified in her mind, preying on her own fatigue, her own doubts. "You are failing. This darkness is too vast. Your efforts are futile." Just as she felt the insidious tendrils beginning to take root, a familiar warmth enveloped her. It was Liam, his presence a beacon of unwavering hope. He didn't need to speak, the silent strength of their bond was enough. Together, they channeled their combined energy, a brilliant wave of compassion and resolve, washing over the despondent woman. A tear, the first in days, traced a path down her withered cheek. A spark, tiny but undeniable, had been rekindled. The heart of the blight, as more and more human towns began to show faint signs of recovery. Anya and Liam realized the shadow caller's ultimate goal was not simply to spread despair, but to gather enough collective negativity to manifest a physical form, a chilling, ethereal entity that could bridge the gap between their realms and unleash unimaginable destruction. The point of highest concentration of this despair, the very heart of the blight, was identified in a sprawling metropolis, a human city of millions, where the despair was a tangible, suffocating fog. This was the shadow caller's true target, its new lair. They knew they had to confront it directly, not with force against humans, but by striking at the source of the despair, by infusing the very air of the city with hope. It was a perilous undertaking. Entering such a dense human population in their human forms carried immense risks, and the sheer scale of the despair threatened to overwhelm even their powerful combined spirits. Yet, they had no choice. Anya and Liam led a carefully selected team of their strongest, most spiritually resilient wolves into the heart of the city. The noise, the lights, the sheer density of human life, all filtered through a heavy veil of collective hopelessness, was disorienting. The despair was a crushing weight, making every breath an effort, every step a struggle. They located the epicenter of the despair, a massive, abandoned industrial complex its concrete bones echoing with the screams of forgotten dreams. The air inside hummed with a malevolent energy, and shimmering, almost invisible tendrils of shadow permeated every corner. "It's feeding," Liam whispered, his voice grim, his amber eyes scanning the oppressive darkness. "It's almost ready." Anya nodded, her hand finding his. "Then, we cut off its supply." They positioned themselves in the central chamber, a vast, echoing space filled with the oppressive weight of accumulated despair. Anya and Liam stood side by side, their chosen wolves forming a protective circle around them. This time, their ritual was not about restoring life to the land, but about igniting hope within countless human souls. A wave of pure, positive emotion powerful enough to counteract the Shadowcaller's influence. As they began the ritual, the air grew thick with a chilling cold, and the whispers of the Shadowcaller became a deafening roar in their minds, preying on every insecurity, every fear, every past failure. It showed Anya images of Liam, lost to the despair, his amber eyes clouded and lifeless. It showed Liam visions of Anya, broken and consumed, her silver fur turned to ash. But they held firm, their bond a shimmering shield against the onslaught. They focused on their love, on their shared vision of a world filled with light and life. They channeled the memories of every person they had seen recover, every flicker of hope they had rekindled. They thought of the moon goddess, her gentle power flowing through them. A brilliant golden light erupted from Anya and Liam, a beacon of pure, unwavering hope. It pulsed outwards, expanding beyond the complex, beyond the city limits, touching every living soul within its reach. It was a silent counter-assault, a direct challenge to the Shadowcaller's dominion. The Shadowcaller, sensing the overwhelming threat to its burgeoning physical manifestation, unleashed its full power. The complex shook violently, and spectral figures, formed from the city's deepest fears, materialized, clawing at their mental barriers, attempting to drag them into the abyss of despair. The fight was fierce, a battle of pure will against overwhelming spiritual darkness. Liam, feeling a surge of raw, protective power, stepped slightly in front of Anya, his body radiating golden energy. He projected an image of perfect peace, of unwavering conviction, a counterpoint to the terrifying visions the Shadowcaller inflicted. His inner light, nurtured by Anya's love and belief since before his birth, was now a roaring inferno, a force of nature. Anya, seeing his strength, felt her own resolve solidify. This was the leader she had dreamed of, the hope for their world. She joined her power with his, their hands clasped, their combined light pushing back, relentlessly, against the encroaching darkness. The Shadowcaller let out a guttural shriek of agony, a sound of pure frustration and diminishing power. The amorphous, building manifestation within the complex began to shudder, its form flickering, unable to hold together under the onslaught of pure, concentrated hope. The spectral figures dissolved into thin air. With a final, desperate surge of their combined power, Anya and Liam released a wave of cleansing light that purified the very air of the complex, pushing the remaining tendrils of despair away, breaking the Shadowcaller's hold on the city. The oppressive fog lifted, replaced by a sense of calm, a quiet returning of clarity to the minds of the humans. The Shadowcaller, its attempts at physical manifestation thwarted, its power once again fractured and scattered, recoiled into the deepest shadows of the spiritual realm, its presence utterly banished from the physical world. For now, it was gone. A future embrace, they returned to their pack lands, exhausted but triumphant. The human cities slowly but surely began to recover, the dark veil of despair lifting like morning mist. The wolves watched, their hearts filled with quiet pride, as the humans rediscovered their joy, their purpose, their collective will to live. Anya and Liam stood together under the vast, moonlit sky, their hands intertwined. The journey had been long, fraught with uncertainty and immense sacrifice, but they had prevailed. The dreams that began on Anya's 16th birthday, dreams of a mate unseen, a war unannounced, had culminated in a love that was not only found, but had actively shaped the world. "We did it," Anya whispered, leaning her head on Liam's shoulder. Liam wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. "We did," he murmured, his voice filled with a deep, abiding contentment. Together. The challenges would undoubtedly return, for darkness always lingered in the periphery of light. But now, they would face them not as separate entities, not as a protector and the protected, but as two halves of a whole, their bond a testament to enduring love and unwavering hope. The moon goddess had indeed provided a mate before his birth, not just to prepare for a war, but to ensure that love itself would be the ultimate weapon, a beacon guiding them through any darkness that lay ahead. Their future was not just a dream anymore, it was a vibrant, living reality, built on the foundations of courage, unity, and an extraordinary love story. The defeat of the Shadowcaller's latest assault brought a period of renewed peace, a golden age for the werewolf packs. The human world, slowly recovering from the blight of despair, began to thrive once more. Anya and Liam, now unequivocally acknowledged as the leaders of their people, worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance. Their joint leadership was a beacon of inspiration. Anya's strategic brilliance and fierce protectiveness complemented by Liam's calm wisdom and profound empathy. Seeds of a new dawn. As Liam entered his early 20s, the depth of his power became increasingly evident. He possessed an innate ability to connect with the spiritual currents of the world, often sensing shifts in energy long before anyone else. He began to explore new forms of healing, working with the land and the spirits of nature to mend not just physical ailments, but also deeper spiritual wounds. His amber eyes, once holding the innocence of a child, now gleamed with the ancient wisdom of a true spiritual leader. Their dreams together became less about battle and more about creation. They saw visions of lush, thriving forests, of vibrant communities where wolves and humans coexisted in a delicate, unspoken harmony. They dreamt of new rituals, not for defense, but for celebration and connection, weaving ancient traditions with a vision of the future. These shared dreams were the seeds of a new dawn, guiding their actions in the waking world. Anya, though still the fierce protector, found her role evolving. With Liam's growing strength, she was able to delegate more, focusing on the broader strokes of diplomacy and the long-term vision for their society. She observed Liam's natural leadership with immense pride, seeing the realization of the prophecy she had carried for so long. Their love deepened with each passing day, a quiet, profound understanding that needed no words. Their bond was a living testament to the moon goddess's foresight. The echoes of the past, despite the prevailing peace, Anya knew that vigilance was paramount. The Shadowcaller, though banished, was a force of pure malevolence, and such forces were never truly eradicated. Its power lay in exploiting weaknesses, and human nature, with its inherent fears and insecurities, was a constant wellspring for its insidious influence. One day, a messenger arrived from a secluded, ancient pack known as the Stone Ridge Pack, nestled deep within forbidding mountains. They had always been isolationists, wary of outsiders, and had only reluctantly joined the alliance during the Shadowcaller's previous assaults. The message was urgent and cryptic. The whispers of old return. A chilling shadow falls upon our youngest. Come, if the silver wolf still remembers her promises. Anya felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. The whispers of old. This was different from the subtle discord the Shadowcaller had sown before. This sounded like a direct, personal assault, reminiscent of its earliest attempts to corrupt Liam's spirit. "We must go," Anya stated, her jaw set. Liam nodded, his face grim. He knew, instinctively, that this was a test, a new frontier in their ongoing battle. The journey to the Stone Ridge Pack was arduous. The mountains were treacherous, the air thin and cold. As they approached the Pack's territory, Anya and Liam felt a familiar oppressive dread, a tangible malevolence in the atmosphere. It was a faint echo of the Shadowcaller's lair, a sign that its influence was strong here. They were met by the Stone Ridge Alpha, a stern, unyielding wolf named Kale, whose eyes held a deep weariness. "The young ones," Kale rumbled, his voice strained. "They are losing their light. Dreams of terror, whispers of despair. And their spirits they are fading, like embers in a cold wind." Liam's expression tightened. He understood immediately. The Shadowcaller wasn't trying to manifest physically this time. It was targeting the next generation, seeking to extinguish the light within the young wolves, to create a legion of hollow, despairing souls to do its bidding. It was a slow, deliberate method of attrition, a long game played across generations. The guardians of innocence, Anya and Liam, entered the den where the afflicted pups and young wolves lay, their small bodies listless, their eyes glazed over, reflecting the despair that consumed them. It was a heartbreaking sight, a direct assault on the very innocence they had fought so hard to protect. Liam knelt beside a small pup, no older than 2, its whimpering barely audible. He placed a gentle hand on its head, closing his eyes. Anya watched, her heart aching, as Liam poured his pure golden energy into the pup, coaxing its spirit, gently pushing back the encroaching darkness. Slowly, painfully, a faint spark of light returned to the pup's eyes. It was a small victory, but it was a beginning. Anya understood that this was Liam's true calling, the culmination of his innate power. He was the guardian of innocence, the beacon of hope for the next generation. While she had protected his birth, he was now protecting the future of all their kind. Together, they devised a plan. They couldn't simply heal each pup individually. The source of the despair had to be severed. The Shadowcaller had created a new kind of spiritual blight, an insidious cloud of despair that targeted the vulnerable minds of the young. Liam, with his unparalleled spiritual connection, pinpointed the source. A hidden cave, high in the mountains, its entrance veiled by ancient, forgotten magic. The cave pulsed with a low, malevolent energy, a quiet hum of despair. This was where the Shadowcaller was concentrating its influence, projecting its psychic toxins into the minds of the young. Anya and Liam, accompanied by a small group of the Stone Ridge Pack's most resilient spiritualists, ventured into the cave. The air grew heavy, the whispers in their minds intensifying, amplified by the confined space. Visions of their past failures, their deepest regrets, flickered before their eyes. "It's trying to break our resolve," Anya stated, her voice steady. "Feed it hope, not fear." Liam moved to the center of the cavern, where the spiritual blight was most concentrated. He closed his eyes, his body radiating a vibrant golden light that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. He began to chant, ancient words of renewal and hope, his voice resonating with power, filled with the collective love and aspirations of his people. Anya stood beside him, her hand on his back, channeling her own strength, her own unwavering faith, into him. She projected an image of their thriving packlands, of happy, laughing pups, of a future bathed in moonlight. She was his anchor, his support, the unwavering force behind his light. The shadow caller, sensing the direct assault on its new strategy, unleashed its full, concentrated fury. The cave walls seemed to close in, and the whispers became a deafening scream, trying to tear their minds apart. The despair was a palpable force, pressing down on them, threatening to crush them. But Liam, with Anya's support, stood firm. His light intensified, pushing back against the darkness, slowly, painstakingly, eroding the blight. He channeled the essence of all the young, healthy spirits he had nurtured, turning their innocence into a weapon against the malevolence. He became a living conduit of pure, unadulterated hope. Finally, with a piercing shriek of frustrated rage, the concentration of the shadow caller's despair fractured and dissipated. The cave filled with a purifying light, and the oppressive gloom lifted. The air became clear, vibrant, filled with the subtle hum of renewed life. The everlasting promise they emerged from the cave, exhausted but victorious. Back at the pack's den, the young wolves stirred, their eyes slowly opening, filled with clear light once more. A wave of relief washed over the Stone Ridge pack, their gratitude immense. Anya watched Liam as he moved among the recovering pups, his touch gentle, his presence a comforting balm. He was the embodiment of the moon goddess's promise, the hope she had dreamed of so long ago. Their love, born from prophecy and forged in the crucible of war, had grown into a partnership that protected not just their lives, but the very essence of their future. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the mountains, Anya and Liam stood together, overlooking the revitalized pack. The fight against the shadow caller was an ongoing saga, a testament to the eternal struggle between light and shadow. But they were ready. They were together. Anya turned to Liam, her eyes shining with love and pride. "You are everything I dreamed of, and more," she whispered. Liam turned to her, his amber eyes reflecting the soft moonlight, holding a promise that transcended time. He leaned down, gently pressing his lips to hers. It was a kiss of profound understanding, of shared destiny, of a love that had defied the impossible. Their story was no longer just about waiting for a mate, but about living a destiny, hand in hand. The moon goddess had not just given Anya a mate before he was born. She had given them each other, a partnership of souls destined to protect, to lead, and to ensure that hope, in all its forms, would forever triumph over despair. Their journey continued, an everlasting promise under the watchful eye of the moon. The trials of growth years flowed like a gentle river, bringing with them a period of relative calm. The packs flourished under the joint leadership of Anya and Liam. They implemented new educational programs, ensuring that even the youngest pups understood the importance of mental fortitude and emotional resilience. Liam, now in his mid-20s, spearheaded initiatives to heal blighted lands that still bore the subtle scars of the shadow caller's touch, using rituals that harmonized with the earth's natural rhythms. His connection to the land and its spirits deepened with each passing season, making him a living embodiment of the moon goddess's benevolent power. Anya, ever the strategist, focused on strengthening inter-pack relations. She established regular council meetings, not just for alphas, but for representatives from all levels of pack society, fostering a sense of shared responsibility. Her silvery wolf form was a frequent sight at these gatherings, a symbol of the unity she championed. Their love, woven into the very fabric of their leadership, became a quiet legend among the packs, a testament to enduring devotion and shared purpose. Yet, even in times of peace, growth brought its own challenges. The younger generations, having never experienced the full brunt of the Shadow Caller's malevolence, began to question the necessity of such constant vigilance. Some grew restless, yearning for a return to a more traditional, less interconnected existence. Small factions, influenced by whispers of past independence, began to voice discontent. It was a natural ebb and flow, a cycle of comfort breeding complacency, but Anya and Liam knew that complacency was a weakness the Shadow Caller would inevitably exploit. The echo chamber of doubt, the Shadow Caller, dormant but never truly gone, sensed this shift in collective consciousness. It didn't launch a direct attack. Instead, it began to exploit the existing societal fissures. Dreams of discontent, visions of imagined injustices, and whispers of past grievances became more frequent among the younger, less experienced wolves. These were not overt malevolent messages, but subtle manipulations designed to amplify existing doubts and sow seeds of division. The goal was to dismantle the hard-won unity from within, creating an echo chamber of doubt. Liam, through his heightened spiritual sensitivity, was the first to notice the growing unease. He felt the subtle vibrations of discord, the faint resonance of fear being cultivated. He found young wolves becoming unusually irritable, prone to snapping at each elders, or withdrawing into themselves. It was a chillingly familiar pattern, albeit on a much smaller, more insidious scale. Anya observed with a heavy heart. "It's targeting our future," she murmured to Liam one evening, as they watched a group of young warriors argue heatedly over trivial matters. "It wants to fracture our collective spirit before they even fully mature." They knew they couldn't simply impose their will. Force would only breed more resentment. They needed to remind the younger generation of the true cost of disunity, without instilling fear. They needed to reignite the understanding that the harmony they enjoyed was not a given, but a constantly tended garden. A journey of rediscovery. Liam proposed a unique solution. A journey of rediscovery. He would lead groups of young, restless wolves on expeditions to the territories most deeply affected by the Shadow Caller's past blights. Not just to show them the scars, but to reenact the rituals of healing, allowing the younger generation to personally experience the spiritual struggle and the triumph of unity. Anya wholeheartedly supported the idea. It was a brilliant move, allowing experience to be their teacher, rather than simply relying on cautionary tales. Liam's empathy and profound connection to the spirits made him the ideal guide for such a sensitive undertaking. The first group was a mix of skepticism and reluctant curiosity. Liam led them to a vast forest that had once been reduced to skeletal trees by the despair plague. As they approached, the young wolves felt the faint, lingering echo of malevolence, a subtle chill that raised the hairs on their necks. Liam began the ancient rituals of renewal, drawing on his immense power, but this time he encouraged the young wolves to participate actively. He guided them in channeling their own youthful energy, their natural connection to life, into the earth. At first they were awkward, hesitant, but as they felt the subtle shift in the land, the slow return of warmth and vitality, their skepticism began to melt away. One young warrior, a particularly cynical male named Finn, scoffed at the flower-waving nonsense. But as he participated, reluctantly at first, he felt a strange tremor, a warmth spreading through his paws. He saw a tiny green shoot push through the cracked earth where his paw rested. His eyes widened, a flicker of awe replacing his usual disdain. Liam, sensing Finn's shift, smiled faintly. He then led the group in a meditation, guiding them to connect with the memories of the land, to feel the lingering despair of the past, and then the slow, arduous return of hope. He didn't just tell them about the shadow collar, he allowed them to feel its lingering touch, and then the triumphant power of overcoming it. The resurgence of spirit. The journeys continued for months, Liam patiently guiding group after group. They visited the ancient industrial complex where Anya and Liam had broken the shadow collar's latest manifestation. They saw the remnants of the despair, now cleansed, but still a potent reminder. They witnessed the subtle beauty of the humans, whose resilience had allowed them to rebuild and thrive after their world had been plunged into despair. With each journey, the young wolves returned transformed, their skepticism replaced by understanding, their restlessness by purpose. They had not just learned history, they had lived it. They had personally felt the insidious power of despair and the overwhelming triumph of unity and hope. The echo chamber of doubt began to crumble, replaced by a resurgence of spirit. Finn, once the most cynical, became one of Liam's most ardent supporters, his eyes now holding a deep, thoughtful light. He shared his experiences with passion, inspiring others to join the journeys, to understand the true meaning of their pack's resilience. During this period, Anya and Liam's bond deepened even further. They spent their evenings sharing stories of the day's experiences, their hands clasped, their spirits intertwined. The love that had begun as a prophecy in dreams had matured into an unshakable foundation, a partnership that resonated with every heartbeat of their thriving world. A shared vision one moonlit night. As the air grew crisp with the promise of autumn, Anya and Liam stood on a ridge overlooking their vibrant packlands. The laughter of young wolves echoed from the dens below, a sweet melody of peace. "They understand now," Anya whispered, a profound sense of contentment in her voice. "They truly understand the cost of complacency and the power of unity." Liam squeezed her hand, his amber eyes gazing at the moon. "The shadow caller's whispers may always return, in new forms. But now, our future generations will be prepared. They will carry the lessons in their spirits, not just in their minds." He turned to her, his gaze filled with a love that felt as ancient and boundless as the moon itself. "You dreamed of the future, Anya. You fought for it before I was even born. And now we are building it, together." Anya leaned into him, feeling the solid comfort of his presence. The prophecy that had shaped her youth had come full circle. She had dreamt of her mate, a future she couldn't touch. But now, he was here, a tangible, powerful force by her side, helping her to shape not just their own destiny, but the destiny of their entire world. Their love was not just a romantic tale. It was the very essence of their continued existence, a beacon against any future darkness. They stood, united, ready for whatever the unfolding chapters of their lives might bring, their story a living testament to the power of dreams, unwavering love, and a future forged by collective will. The unforeseen threat, the shifting sands, the period of harmony and strengthened bonds between the packs, meticulously cultivated by Anya and Liam, lasted for several more years. The younger generations, having participated in the journeys of rediscovery, carried a deep understanding of their history and the ever-present need for vigilance. Liam, now in his late 20s, had fully embraced his role as a spiritual and diplomatic leader, his calm demeanor and profound empathy earning him respect from every alpha. Anya, his beloved mate, remained a strategic backbone of their society, her mind always a few steps ahead, anticipating potential threats. Their love had settled into a comfortable, profound rhythm, a constant source of strength and comfort. Yet, the world was a dynamic place, and new challenges always emerged. This time, the threat wasn't a direct spiritual attack from the Shadow Caller, but an unforeseen environmental cataclysm that threatened to unravel the delicate balance of their existence. The land itself began to change. Deserts expanded at an alarming rate, swallowing fertile plains. Rivers dwindled to trickles, and ancient forests, untouched for centuries, began to wither and die from an inexplicable drought. This was not the malevolence of the Shadow Caller, but a natural disaster on an unprecedented scale. Yet it still created the conditions for despair that the ancient entity would inevitably exploit. The human populations, unprepared for such drastic changes, suffered immensely. Mass migrations began, disrupting established territories and leading to conflicts over dwindling resources. The packs, too, felt the pinch. Hunting grounds became barren, water sources dried up, and the very ground beneath their paws grew parched and cracked. Fear, hunger, and desperation began to creep into the hearts of even the most resilient wolves, a fertile ground for the Shadow Caller's return. Anya and Liam observed these changes with growing alarm. This wasn't a direct enemy they could fight with spiritual energy or strategic maneuvers. This was the earth itself, rebelling. "The land is crying out," Liam mused one evening, his brow furrowed as he watched the sunset paint the parched landscape in hues of grim orange. "Its life force is draining, like the spirits we saved." Anya nodded, her gaze fixed on the wilting trees. "And where life drains, despair gathers. The Shadow Caller will not miss this opportunity." The call of the Earth Singer's Ilara, now ancient and almost entirely reliant on her spiritual sight, offered a glimmer of hope. Her voice, thin but clear, resonated with ancient knowledge. "The Earth Singers," she whispered, her eyes closed. A forgotten line, those who could speak to the very heart of the land. They alone could soothe its pain, replenish its spirit. The Earth Singers were a myth, a legend from a time before even the oldest pack members remembered. They were said to be wolves with an unparalleled connection to the Earth's elemental forces, capable of mending landscapes and guiding natural energies. The knowledge of their existence had faded into mere folklore. Liam, however, felt a deep resonance with Ilara's words. His own connection to the land was strong, and he felt a pull, a faint, almost inaudible song from the dying earth itself. "I can find them," he declared, his amber eyes glowing with resolve. "Or at least, I can find their knowledge." Anya knew the risks. Such a journey would take Liam far from the safety of their consolidated territories into unknown and potentially hostile lands. But the alternative was unthinkable. The very existence of their world depended on finding a way to heal the earth. "Then we will prepare," she said, her voice firm, her resolve unwavering. "And I will go with you." A perilous quest for ancient wisdom, their journey took them south, across vast, scorching deserts where the wind howled mournfully, carrying nothing but sand. They passed through abandoned human settlements, stark monuments to the creeping despair. Their physical strength and mental fortitude were tested daily, but their combined bond remained their unwavering anchor. Anya's sharp senses navigated them through treacherous terrain, while Liam's spiritual compass guided them towards faint pockets of ancient earth energy. They traveled for weeks, relying on scattered, almost illegible ancient maps and the intuitive guidance of Ilara, who communicated with them through their shared dreams. It was during one such dream that Ilara revealed a crucial piece of information. The last known enclave of the Earth Singers was said to be hidden within a legendary emerald oasis, a place rumored to be untouched by the blight, sustained by an ancient, powerful wellspring of life. Finding the emerald oasis was a quest in itself. They faced sandstorms that blotted out the sun, mirages that twisted reality, and desperate territorial rogues driven mad by thirst and hunger. Liam, tapping into his burgeoning spiritual powers, often had to soothe the parched earth enough to find hidden underground water sources, literally breathing life back into the dying land, even if only temporarily. Anya, ever the protector, fought off aggressive wildlife and disillusioned wolves, her silver fur a blur of strength against the encroaching threats. Finally, after weeks of arduous travel, they saw it. A shimmer on the horizon, an impossible splash of vibrant green against the endless ochre of the desert. The Emerald Oasis. As they drew closer, the air grew cooler, infused with the scent of damp earth and lush vegetation. It was a haven, a miracle in the heart of desolation. At the center of the oasis stood a cluster of gnarled, ancient trees, their leaves a deep, rich emerald. And beneath them, around a crystal-clear spring, sat a small, incredibly old wolf. Its fur was a mosaic of mossy green and bark-like brown, its eyes the color of deep, clear water. This was an Earth Singer, a living legend. The wisdom of the Earth Singer, whose name was Elder Willow, greeted them with a gaze that seemed to encompass millennia. It was a serene, knowing gaze, devoid of judgment. "The silver wolf and the golden soul," Elder Willow rasped, its voice like the rustling of ancient leaves. "You have come, as foretold by the whispers of the living earth." Anya and Liam explained their plight, the encroaching desertification, the dying lands, and the fear that the Shadow Caller would return to feast on the resulting despair. Elder Willow listened patiently, its eyes closed, its body subtly vibrating with the energy of the oasis. "The earth is wounded," Elder Willow finally said. "Not by malevolence, but by imbalance. The flow of life energy is disrupted. To heal it, you must find the heartstone of Gaia, a pulsating crystal deep within the earth, long lost to the knowledge of wolves. It is the core of this land's vitality, and it calls to the purest of spirits." Liam felt a powerful resonance, a profound hum within his very being. The Heartstone. He knew, instinctively, that it was what he had been sensing all along. Elder Willow then spoke of the ancient rituals, the songs of the earth, the way to harmonize with the planet's life force. It was a knowledge woven from millennia of intimate connection, a forgotten language of elements and energy. Liam absorbed every word, his mind open, his spirit eager. Anya, though she couldn't feel the precise resonance, understood the immense power of this ancient wisdom. "The journey to the Heartstone is perilous," Elder Willow warned. "It lies beneath a land twisted by ancient magic, a place where the earth itself can turn against you, and only one with a spirit as pure as the dawn, as connected to life as the spring, can awaken its song." Elder Willow looked directly at Liam. The Heartstone's song, the next part of their quest, led them to a region known as the Twisted Peaks, a range of mountains that defied natural logic, their peaks spiraling like corkscrews, their valleys filled with churning fogs. It was a place where ancient, chaotic, magical energies had been unleashed long ago, leaving the land unstable and unpredictable. Navigating the twisted peaks was a nightmare. The ground shifted beneath their feet, rock falls were frequent, and the very air seemed to vibrate with erratic energies that disoriented their senses. Anya's strategic mind was pushed to its limits, finding paths through the chaos, while Liam's heightened spiritual awareness protected them from unseen energetic currents that could tear a wolf apart. They finally located the entrance to an ancient cavern, hidden behind a waterfall that flowed upwards, defying gravity. The air inside was thick with raw, untamed earth magic. The passage descended deep into the planet's core, growing warmer, more vibrant with every step. Finally, they reached a vast, subterranean chamber. At its center, pulsating with a soft, iridescent light, was the heartstone of Gaia. It was a massive crystal, larger than a wolf, embedded in the living rock, its facets shimmering with every color imaginable. It hummed with an ancient, powerful song, a lullaby of life that resonated through their very bones. Liam approached it, his heart pounding with reverence and anticipation. He could feel its immense power, its deep connection to every living thing. He placed his hands upon its surface, and a torrent of pure, unadulterated life energy surged through him. He closed his eyes and began to sing. It was not a wolf's howl, nor a human's melody. It was the song of the earth singers, a harmony of whispers and vibrations that resonated with the very core of the planet. Liam poured his pure spirit into the song, his connection to life, his love for Anya, his hope for the world, all flowing into the heartstone. As he sang, the crystal pulsed brighter, its light expanding, filling the chamber. The vibrations intensified, spreading outwards, through the rock, through the earth, a wave of healing energy emanating from the planet's core. Anya, standing beside him, felt the profound shift, the deep-seated healing of the land herself. She placed her hand on his back, adding her strength, her love, to his profound connection. The Earth Singer's song resonated across the globe, reaching every parched land, every dwindling river. The deserts, slowly at first, began to recede. Faint green shoots appeared in the cracked earth. Rivers swelled, their waters clear and abundant. The ancient forests, once withered, began to unfurl new, vibrant leaves. The world was healing, its life force replenished by the awakened heartstone. The eternal guardians, when Liam finally finished his song, utterly spent but radiating a profound peace, the heartstone pulsed with a steady, brilliant light, its song now a constant, gentle hum within the earth. He turned to Anya, his amber eyes filled with an exhaustion that was deeply satisfied. "We did it," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Anya embraced him fiercely, tears streaming down her face. "You saved us, Liam. You saved the world." They returned to their packlands, to a world transformed. The despair that had begun to creep in among the packs had vanished, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and vitality. The humans, too, showed signs of recovery, their lands blooming once more. The moon goddess had truly foreseen everything. She had given Anya a mate before he was born, not just to prepare for a single war, but to prepare for a lifetime of guardianship, a partnership that could face any challenge, whether from insidious darkness or a wounded earth. Liam, now hailed not just as a leader, but as the Earth Speaker, the one who could sing the land back to life, continued his work. He taught the younger generations the subtle art of listening to the earth, of harmonizing with its energies. Anya, as his mate and partner, guided their society in building sustainable practices, ensuring that the lessons learned from the environmental crisis would never be forgotten. Their love, once a dream, was now a living legend, a testament to resilience, foresight, and the enduring power of a bond that transcended time and destiny. They stood together, the Silver Wolf and the Earth Speaker, eternally vigilant, forever intertwined, guardians of a world they had fought so hard to save, and a love that continued to bloom with every new dawn.